There we are.
Here we are. We'll just get started, right?
Yeah, let's jump in. So welcome back, Karen, from a busy week last week.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's just do the full disclosure. This is a pre-record, friends. This is for Lenny Nights, Thursday, May 8th. And that's just because tomorrow I'm headed to Yale University's Insights On conference. Which we can talk about next Friday.
Yep. Expect a full debrief. Absolutely.
I will do that. I will do that and tell you what's happening coming out of that programming. And yes, and today, of course, I'm not in my own office. I'm in my parents' home, as indicated by said decor. So I'm flexibly working today.
Flexibility, that's the name of the game, isn't it?
Exactly. So. That's how we roll. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And where do we begin?
Let's talk about IEX. Give your take overall, and there's lots of other takes that we could throw people some links to.
I mean, for everybody listening, all you really have to do is go onto LinkedIn, look up hashtag IIEXNA, and find all of the posts of people who are still unpacking what was a really fabulous week of learning and kind of learning and connecting and energy and excitement and massive amounts of intellect around the industry being shared. Lenny, I feel like I had wished you were there a few times with some of the conversations I was having, because people felt like this event in particular, maybe because there was so much to talk about with data quality and all that, but it felt really, really true to the roots of what IIEX was founded for. And that was kind of the exchange of ideas and solutions and methodologies and technologies. And it just was really what I would call an event that was and will continue to be a catalyst for the rest of the year. So pretty electric, pretty exciting.
Good. Yeah,
I am sorry you missed it.
That's what we tried to do. I am sorry I missed it as well. Although there were so many posts on LinkedIn that I felt that I had a good sense of what was going on overall. But I think that my takeaway, and from what you're saying, and that was it's interesting when you have an event and everybody gets together, and when you're detecting trends and what we've been doing of talking about all these different data points and kind of threading them in, a magic that happens at an event like that, where it seems to coalesce. And you're like, oh yeah, this was not just me connecting amorphous dots. Like, oh, I see it. I see it happening here. Kind of a pivot point overall. So that was my takeaway, that there is a sense of everybody recognizing, oh, yeah, the industry really is changing. There is this whole other future that's emerging. These are the folks that are going to have to find that and build it over time. And all of those threads just kind of came together. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah. And I think, part of what was fantastic, kind of serendipitously fantastic, is, our Logic Group, our title sponsor, the title sponsor speaks pretty early on at these events. They're like number 2 on the agenda, right? So we kicked things off with somebody from Capital One, which is, Capital One is very, I don't want to say they own DC, but it's the Capital One Arena, and there's Capital One sponsored things happening all over town all of the time. So we invited her to speak first, and then Logic Group was second, and they very quickly went into, let's start the conversation about data quality and the scandal and what it all means. And it really set the stage for many kind of sub conversations in the breakout sessions throughout. And then we culminated it with, L&E and P&G coming up to kind of play the game Bot or Not, which was really fun, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It was fun because they gave several members in the audience like little flip cards, yes or no, kind of Bot or Not. Yeah. And they'd put something up and we would have to guess, could we recognize the bot? And sometimes most people got it right, sometimes people got it wrong. So it really was a challenge to all of us. And probably my favorite quote, and I know Carly captured this on social media too, but my favorite quote from Tia specifically, which is, she approaches data like a crime scene. And it was just that so powerful.
That's very Tia-ish.
Very Tia-ish, but also it was just one of those quotes where I'm like, yes, we are investigators. You know, we are looking at data, looking for the things that stand out as potentially problematic. We are looking at it as if there are clues. We are really detectives. And it was just a powerful quote that I share because we are all charged with that right now, right? It is time to borrow from forensics and say what is in here that shouldn't be in here. And I just applauded her so much for that one. So anyway, so I think it was really good because it coincidentally and serendipitously, like I said, coming together at a time when we needed to have these critical conversations. And then there were people talking about some solutions, and they were talking, you know, so it was really moving things forward. So it wasn't just saying, oh shit, this happened. It was really saying, what are we going to do about it now? And that's where the co-creation kind of mission of IAEX was like happening real time, because people were coming together to co-create the future of insights. And it was, I think, a large part of the magic that we had there.
That's great. I love that foundational component of data quality. We'll get into that more.
We got a lot
here, but a lot to cover. But because everything else, all the other cool stuff that we're talking about, right, in terms of collecting data and utilizing data and all these innovations, but fundamentally, if we don't have the data right, it doesn't matter how cool it is, because it's still going to be wrong. So that's great that seems like that context was there.
And you know, the other thing that I thought was fantastic about the event, which was that our speakers really delivered when it came to AI. Now, some of the feedback I had gotten is, you know, some people were like, oh, too much AI, you know, like, you know, like at other events, you know, like too much AI. I'm done talking about AI. And even last year, we got some feedback like it was too much AI. But this year, you know, I really, kind of challenged people to say, you can't just talk about AI. Like AI is just a part of our work now. So if you're going to talk about AI, you have to talk about it in very much an applicable, real use case.
Yes.
You know, how it is making a difference against, you know, your client's bottom line or addressing your client's business challenges. Like, get really tactical with AI so that it isn't just another AI talk. And they delivered. I mean, our speakers, there were methodologies, there were, you know, introductions of new features. There was considering the possibilities. There's, you know, how it's doing things at scale, how it's making things more efficient. So it was really useful AI conversations, which I think is just what the industry needed to recognize. Well, we are well beyond it's here to stay, and we're more like it is a tool in our toolbox that we have to be using, you know, in a certain way at this point in time, very deliberately. And so I loved to see that also.
That's very cool. I want to give a public shout out to you. For listeners who may not know this, right? I mean, yes, I created IAX and I did the programming for years, and I know what a thankless and pain in the ass job that is. However, the quality of the content that you have been curating and bringing to the stage exceeds anything I ever did, anything that Emily ever did, because it's easy to fall into kind of this rote, you know, just plugging gaps, right? And okay, we'll put this here. You have taken an approach that I always aspired to, but I don't think I ever achieved, of telling a story, of putting these pieces together as a whole to create a narrative that is reflective of where we are and where we are going. So just shout out to you, hats off. For those who don't know, I recruited Karen to kind of take this role, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I just want you to know that.
Well, thank you. My face feels warm right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm coming down with a fever because I'm blushing a little bit.
No, it's cool because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to separate the signal from the noise. And that's what a good event like IX should do. It should help clarify the signal. And it's hard to do when you have all these different variables, different speakers and blah, 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 and sponsors. And, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces in doing all that. And you did a great job, and it is reflected because of the feedback that we have gotten from participants, all of the stuff on LinkedIn. You know, it stands out that we delivered on the mission, which was to bring people together, exchange ideas, clarify the signal, and give people a path forward. And you did that. So, all right. Now I'm never going to say anything nice to you again, ever again, ever. That was it.
I'm glad this is recorded, because this will be one of those things that I'm like, just listen to that again. Thank you.
All right. But while you're going,
I have been a huge IAX brand fan before I had the, before I had the privilege of being able to join this team and kind of grab that bull by the horns and take it along. So I knew what I always wanted, and I knew what I always loved and appreciated about the event. And I just, anyways,
yes. It comes down to the skills of being a moderator, right? I mean, that is what you
largely,
do.
Yeah.
You weave together different perspectives to get to a cohesive whole. So, all right, but while you were out there having fun in DC, well, I know you're also like pulling your hair out, but
well, maybe you do know, but yes, no, yeah. It was also great. They were also at the Green Book team.
Yes, entire Green Book team, absolutely.
Like, wow. I mean, there isn't anybody that. It just was amazing. Nobody fell down on the job. That's for damn sure. But Kara and Bridget just do an outstanding job. And everybody in the industry, everybody who was there knows that Kara and Bridget really are the production logistical geniuses behind everything that transpired there. And our marketing team, I mean, Jazz, Carly, and Kat just, killed this event, because we had, great attendance, great attendance compared to registration. Like, that's such a high rate of attendance. Like, it's extraordinary what they did to kind of get people in the door and then keeping them engaged while they were there. And of course, like Dana and Mariah just, working the magic that they do, for all of our sponsors, like, and Nancy stepping up to help and Lukash coming in to help. Like, it really is an exciting time when the entire Green Book team can get together like that. It's just extraordinary.
It really is. I miss those days. But I want one last thing for those who make suggestions on things, because this was a new venue, and that's always a little weird. Is you kind of, all right, how's this work? Heard your feedback. We've been in meetings this week, kind of debriefing and thinking through how do we optimize and how to make it better and take that feedback. So that's all there too. So thank you for trusting us as we think through this process. I think it's a safe bet. We're probably going to remain there next year for a variety of reasons, but we're going to make it better. We heard your feedback. So, but don't quote me on that yet, because things can switch up. But
I don't think the contract is signed.
The contract is not signed, but but we want to always make it better. That's the bottom line. So, all right. So while you were out there enjoying it, I was manning the store, so to speak, and still paying attention to all the news. There was a lot. You want to try and like get through some of the high points as we can.
Yeah, and I just always find it really interesting when we talk about kind of mergers and acquisitions and what's happening with people combining forces. And to me, that's one of the most interesting things that you and I do is tracking that and sharing that out, because it's basically like signaling what's important, what's critical, all of those signals, back to the signals in the noise, right? So I love talking about these moves. I don't know much about them, so you're going to really kind of lead the way here. But let's talk about Apollo merging with Canovo.
Yep.
Or into Konovo, I guess.
There's a rebranding, I think. So Apollo started with InCrowd and is private equity backed, and they were acquiring companies. And I think they just merged their brands of InCrowd, SHG, and Global Mind. So into one integrated brand, Konovo. And wrapping AI around all of that. Now, all of those, it's very healthcare specific. That's been their area of focus with these different solutions to different aspects of healthcare research, and they're moving into the next phase. Now, my personal opinion is, you see this, you watch these companies when they start doing moves like this, they're prepping for another event. At some point, it could be a growth round, it could be another it could be them being acquired, could be going, who knows, but these are the types of things you see as companies they've come together, they've got a good model, they're pulling things together, they're ready for the next phase of the business.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be, and I have no insight into that, but so it's cool to see that. That's
Yeah, and it also, you kind of touched on the fact that obviously we've got the wrappings of some AI assists in this kind of, this merger, this new brand, or this, repackaging of several companies. But one of the things in this press release is that they're talking about overtly AI fraud detection and sample authentication, which like, yeah, you know what? This is a good time to,
absolutely, especially for B2B healthcare
there.
research. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 100%. You don't want fake doctors. Giving feedback.
Or fake patients.
Or fake patients. Right. Absolutely.
We don't want in the healthcare space to, have any issues with that. So yeah. So kudos to them. Good luck. I don't know anything about, I shouldn't say don't know anything. I didn't know anything about the next one we're talking about, which is a new firm, an independent intelligence firm called Konovo. But it's with some folks in the industry that have been around before. This is kind of what it is. I think that says there's some like PR people in the mix. What do you know about Konovo? What did you read?
Only what we've read, but it was interesting. Caught my eye of them taking an approach of basically research needs to be reinvented as an integrated solution attached to marketing and PR. So kind of breaking down the wall and making it more integrated into the users with multiple levels of decision support at different phases. Very AI heavy. But basically my take was they're trying to pull together one integrated insights platform for competitive intelligence, for testing, for brand measurement, et cetera, all there, one dashboard, one application, one ring to rule them all. And aligned specifically to user needs. So it was just an interesting, okay, here's the next evolution, or a take on what that next evolution looks like.
Yeah. And when you click on this link, and kind of read this release, if you're interested in it, like there's two things, one of them, the new company's name is an Italian word meaning den or protector. And I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Yeah. That won't be, I guess it's Covo. I might have said Convo, but Covo, like that won't necessarily be immediately obvious. So they're stating it, right? But den or protector. And they do mention they want to develop a trusted space, which I also thought, I'm like, all right, that's interesting because trust, obviously right now, trust is going to bubble up to the top as something that they need to reinforce. So for me, this is more of a like show, don't tell kind of word, like don't tell me that I can trust you, show me that I can trust you kind of thing. So we'll see how all of that plays out for them. But anyway, back to the importance of intelligence rather than just insights, which we've talked about before.
Yes. And testament again to the burgeoning startup wave that we are in. So we can follow the money. As many fears as we have about the future of the industry from a structural standpoint, maybe. If we follow the money, there should be no fear about the need for. So the form's changing. Companies like this are indicative of that. And every day, literally, new companies emerging into this space because the opportunity for growth is massive. And I think that we should all take some comfort in that overall.
And comfort in this next news item that we have, which is one of the key players that isn't a startup right now is showing growth, right? So Pureprofile reporting 16% revenue growth. So that's no small thing right now when a lot of companies are not seeing that and they might be nervous.
Absolutely. And I'm an advisor to Pureprofile, so full disclosure. So I know what they've been doing to drive that. And I've worked with them for forever. I love those people. They're so smart. But yes, to your point, right? They're adapting, and I think that's maybe the key takeaway of that particular message. If you watch their press releases, and they're a public company, there's a lot of transparency there. They keep pivoting, they keep adapting, they keep evolving their solution set while still having their feet on the on the ground, on the foundations of research, but doing new stuff. So I think they're a great example for companies to pay attention to, that they're demonstrating success as they adapt. And I'm not saying that because I work with them. I would have said that whether I work with them or not, because we look for companies like that are showing adaptability and real market performance. And that's an example of that.
Yeah, for sure. So congrats to them, and congrats to Ackwest. So
you and Keith at it again. So
back to North America. Ackwest was our competition sponsor. It was great to have them there. It was really, both you and Keith, showed up with the mics to kind of, talk a little bit about what, about where they're at as a firm, but also why the innovation space is so important to them. And, and this announcement came out kind of real time while we were there, right? I think it came out the same day as, or the day before or something. So Ackwest Group acquiring members from MySoapBox. So, anyway, just expanding their operations. And I think Hugh, and don't quote me on the number, but he had shared with me that they now have over 200 employees. They are a force that we need to all be paying attention to, and kudos to them for what they're building.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. They sunset the brand of some of the other companies that they had bought. They're beginning to consolidate, building their own integrated brand identity. So we need to watch them. And absolutely. Similar stuff. The Trade Desk and Nick launched Consumer Canvas, integrating purchase behavior data into a planning tool called Consumer Canvas. The emphasis there is purchase data, behavioral data. It's kind of hard to fake that. Not impossible, but the more that when we see companies like NIQ, Nick, whatever the hell they're going to be called, Nielsen IQ, the really focusing on moving away from attitudinal data, or at least not basing everything on attitudinal data,
right,
but instead on observed behavior, right? Things that are much harder to fake. That's important. That's a huge signal. Where, as we're talking about data quality, reliance on behavioral data, or maybe not reliance, but integration is probably a better way to think about it, is something that we should be doing more of, because we have the capability of doing it now.
Yeah. Well, what this release talks about is also that they're taking that kind of retail data and they're, merging it with geo-targeting capabilities.
Yeah.
Which, when you read it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then my consumer hat flops on my head, and I'm like, am I okay with that? Like, how do I feel about the data being overlaid with like my location and what that all means? And then I think it's all right. It's going to be okay. It's really smart for the businesses that are working with them. And I, then I take the hat back off and I say, it's good. It's all good.
There's so many places we could go with that. There are, but there was this wasn't even a link that was shared. So, but there was a company that I saw last week, stumbled across, shit. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, but it was the outside the research industry, utilize mobile devices, but consumer first from a permissioning standpoint. The play is, hey, we're going to give you a phone. That phone has their modified operating system. It is capturing all of the data, and then it is driving invitations for research as well as ads, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all explicitly permission-based by the consumer. And the reward is the consumer gets a free phone.
Right.
And it's just that type of thinking that it's like, to your point, as a consumer, that changes the equation rather than, oh, I'm just being productized, to, oh, I'm getting value out of this.
Well, exactly. And I remember, we're going back years now, probably, 10 years. I don't even know, because I'm losing track. The idea of like when online, like retargeted ads first became a thing. Mm-hmm. at first it was a little unnerving and creepy. I'm like, wait, I don't know that I want ads dialed up for exactly what I might've been talking to somebody about. Like there was this unnerving period with that. Right. Whereas now they've kind of said the people that were doing this sort of thing, saying like, let me know if you want those targeted ads, because if you don't want them, that's cool. We'll give you ads. But do you want the ads to be customized to what you might actually want? And then you feel like you are a little empowered because you're like, actually, the retargeted ones might not have been so bad because I am not in the market for, I don't know, whatever I might have been in the market for. So I think it's just going to be this moment of time where we have to kind of say like, all right, what are they going to do? What's in it for us?
Well, search is changing, and there's a whole other thing for us to talk about at some point. That, if Google's broken up, what happens to Chrome? And advertising, Perplexity wants to buy them. Blah 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 blah. Lots of big kind of stuff happening, but it does create an opportunity to rethink that value proposition as the ecosystem shifts, and I hope that we see more of that. And I'm sure we will. And there's a lot. Sidebar, folks, there was so much that was just about sort of tech, but there was also a lot going on for the industry. So we stayed kind of hyper-focused on industry news right now, but I'm sure next week we'll get back into some of those big tech elements. Anyway,
absolutely. Let's talk about Priceagent, because this one was really interesting to me because it's some of the people that are involved, right? So I think in the press release, Priceagent raising, $550K. It's not millions of seed dollars, but it's some good funding to jumpstart stuff here. So they're basically, looking to, to execute price sensitivity tests very quickly, as opposed to, the amount of time that it used to take. But it's, what was interesting to me is this is backed not just by founders and consultants, but angel investors that include former Cint executives. So, it's a knowledge base that's going into this one. So what else do you know about this one?
No, that's it. I think it's a need to have easier to use, price sensitivity and testing and all of that. So seeing somebody focus on that, that's a great tool.
Yeah.
So
you ready? You ready? You ready to talk about data quality?
Yeah. Well, let's talk first. Even though it may not be linked here first, that a great Substack post I reposted on my LinkedIn as well, but we have the link here. The cost of coming forward is from the COO of Opinions for Good, where she came out and she was the whistleblower, and she can't talk a lot about the details because it is a court case, but she made a fantastic point, and it was really, so I encourage you, please everybody read it. It was an act of bravery. And the point that she was making of, look, there's a lot of people that got let go, right? The business shut down. There's lots of people looking for jobs. You cannot assume that they were complicit in any of this, because the folks who set it up did a really good job of hiding this, right? She was brought in as COO and she discovered it. She didn't know it. She discovered it. And when she discovered it, she acted. Give grace to the other employees, and also know that they may not be able to talk about it because they're material witnesses. So I saw a post from JD on this, like, you need to ask them up front, which I get it. I understand. But they very well may say, I can't talk about this. That should not be held against them. So it was just a good point. It was just a really good post to kind of, all right, here's some more information that's relevant here.
No, I'm glad that we're sharing that one out. And, I know we'll also share out a post that you had written about it. There are a lot of posts that have been written about it. So that's another thing that, there's plenty of things on LinkedIn. There's plenty of things on Substack. There's really, we're going to try to maybe summarize some of them, keep kind of delivering that to you all. But the reality is this is important. These are important data points to take in. Our frame of reference can shift by the daily from, grace, as you're saying, that's kind of a new one to mention in there. I think we talked last week about having grace for giving grace to kind of the victims, the people who are on that long list of people who were a part of this.
And so like the employees, right?
And the employees are also a part of that now. And it's like, yeah, you know what? It's true. Not all of those employees knew what was going on, and imagine how they must have, anyway. So yeah, so I think it's like, let's all think like human beings as we continue to watch this all unfold and fix the problems. And I really do think we turned into some action, and now we have some tools and techs that are evolving very quickly to help the industry restore confidence, right? So the idea is that, all right, so this industry trauma, for lack of a better word, right? This crisis has spurred on some accelerated innovation. So the next few things that we're going to share, this like hats off, people are doing the work that we need them to do right now. So you want to start with ReDem?
Yeah, which I actually was not familiar with. It's version 3.0 for their survey data quality. So it more new advances, lots of different plays, lots of different organizations, companies offering solutions to address different issues around data quality. The Humanizer, now that is IC that came out to identify bots by using their core technology of eye tracking. Right, no matter how good the AI is, it still doesn't mimic true human movement, and use as a validation approach to, hey, show us a picture of yourself. Okay, let's scan your eye and make sure that you're a human. So that's great.
Let's bop to the user testing one, because it's more kind of more in line. User tester integrating with LinkedIn.
Verified on LinkedIn.
Verified on LinkedIn to bolster authenticity, which is actually really interesting because we have started. Some people who have submitted to publish with us might have noted we've started to include a share your LinkedIn profile on our submission form, because the articles, we were getting more and more articles that seemed to have been AI created, and I'm like, not going to be okay, because we only want to publish articles that are linked to real professionals within the industry. So hats off to user testing, because that one resonated with me.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, I read that.
LinkedIn is the end all, right? But it's,
I haven't done the whole verified account yet after 15 years of having a LinkedIn account, but it's like, I probably need to just click that button and do the whole verification thing as an example, right? Because it is a good way to be able to help cross-connect data points to prove that you're a real person. And this is just, there were other things that popped as well, just examples of, people are in motion, taking action to deal with these issues. So this may sound a little promotional. I don't mean it. I do encourage you guys to read the post that I did, only because what I tried to take was the view that this is not a research only issue. The entire data-driven ecosystem is infected with fraud. Click fraud, ad, blah 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 blah. Right? There's so much. This is not just us. And my point is, I would encourage us to think about this systemically across the entire data ecosystem, including, hopefully, some push from the big tech and AI companies, because ultimately now they are the ones that are most at risk of the contamination. And we're really seeing that start to play out. So let's keep a perspective. It's not just, researchers are bad and panels suck and No, there's the entire world has a data quality problem. Right.
For real.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. And I think that's probably where we were, we'll wrap our show is, this idea that there's more to come on this. And also what I found really interesting is taking in different people's points of view on it, talking to a few brand side attendees who were like, look, we just trusted our partners for this. So now they're feeling a whole different kind of angst. And you and I talked before about data quality being kind of the vendor's responsibility. I think it was in the grit data, right? About brands were not as worried about it because this was last year's grit data, I guess, but because they trusted their partners to be on the job, right? So now
you buy something, you expect it to be good quality.
Right. So now they are in it, right? So now they're paying attention. So we've caught the attention of the brands. And I think that on some level, that might make it easier for the, partners in the industry to then, make the changes they need to change, because they're like, well, we have to do these things, and maybe it will cost some more, but we have to do them because of the data quality issues. So maybe this has all become a bit of a blessing in disguise to be able to, provide better service in the long run. So.
And there may be a role for the Temu of data, that's, but not everybody wants Temu, right? If I want something that's going to last me for years, the example I always use shoes, it's great to go to Walmart, whatever, buy shoes. If I don't expect them to last, right? But if I want shoes that are really going to last, then I'm going to go spend $200 on a pair of boots. Now, and that better last. So I'm not okay with something I spend money on not being good quality. If it's cheap, I get what I pay for, which I expect it to not be good. And we may see that type of ecosystem emerging.
We'll The difference between me and you is, as you started talking, I started talking about Jimmy Choo, or thinking about Jimmy Choo, and I was thinking about, rhinestoned or bedazzled stilettos, and thinking, like, is that where he's going with this? And
I am not buying rhinestone stilettos, I promise.
Not
no,
picture these great heels,
no. I mean, like, good quality leather boots,
anyway,
not cowboy boots. I don't wear cowboy boots, but
A picture for the week ahead is, Lenny's shoe choices.
Despite the long hair, I promise you I'm not wearing stilettos. Sorry. Anyway,
on that note, everybody have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all.
Happy Mother's Day. Yes.
Yeah, really, especially, granted, the women and the mothers in our audience are most likely hardworking mothers.
Absolutely.
So, really kudos to all of you, because I see you and I see some of what I'm seeing on LinkedIn. It is not getting easier. It is getting harder. So anyway, here for you. Happy Mother's Day. I will see you all next week. I'll tell you about what happens at the Yale Insights On event.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.